Hello there. Welcome. I'm Linda Heffernan from A Kaizen Mind. I'm a behavioral scientist specializing in executive leadership development. I'm an executive coach, and I also work in clinical practice in cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy for stress management for executives. For years, clients have been asking me to document processes I use, structures I use, approaches that I use. So I've just started, okay? This particular approach today is again based in cognition and behavior. I work with leaders who want to elevate both their person and their performance. Because here's what I've learned over years of coaching and therapy: you really can't separate the two. Who you are as a person, how you think, how you respond to pressure, how you treat yourself, that directly impacts how you perform as a leader and as a human being. My approach is about understanding the connection between cognition and behavior. What you think shapes how you feel, and how you feel influences what you do, and what you do creates your results. My approach is informed by my evidence-based training in psychology, neuroscience, and leadership and coaching. There's no woo-woo here, folks. This is science, behavioral science. When leaders come to me, they're often high achievers who want to do better. They're already performing well, but they know that there's another level available to them. Some also are experiencing stress and pressure as they navigate bigger challenges or increased responsibility. Others simply want to understand themselves better so they can lead more effectively. So what do? Well, I help them look at their cognition, the thoughts, beliefs, and internal narratives driving their behavior. And when we work on the behavior itself, the patterns, the responses, the actions that they then take under pressure, that's when we see the change happening. What you change, when you change, that's very much involved in thinking. So when you change what you think and what you do, you elevate who you are. And when you elevate who you are, your performance follows. This video, folks, as you can see, is very straightforward. There's no frills, there's no graphics. I've just been swatting a fly away. This is raw and simple and focusing on value to you. It's about value content, not about aesthetics. This is my longer version of this video. I will also be offering a bite-sized version of my approach called the A game, okay? That's what I'm sharing with you now. It's one of the core frameworks that I created and that I use with my clients. It's actually based on behavioral science structure. I just created the name The A Game, and how I outline it is kind of my approach. It's about how we can structure our thinking and behavior when we face a challenge. And this isn't just theory, it's a practical process that you can use when you're dealing with pressure or difficult decisions or situations that feel overwhelming. There are 5 A's in this particular video. In certain situations, I add in another one. But let's begin here with the 5 stages of my A game. We've got aware, acknowledge, appraisal, action, and assessment. 5 A's. So let's talk through each one, walk through each one, and see how they work together. The first step is aware. Aware. Being aware that there is a challenge. And notice, I don't say problem. I come from a cognitive, behavioral, and coaching approach. I prefer challenge because problems feel fixed, and that gives them a lot of power, whilst the language of challenge is something that we can work with. But actually, here's the thing. Awareness doesn't just happen in your head. It happens in your whole system, because your whole system is constantly sending you signals that something needs attention. So awareness can come from three places. It can come from internal language, emotional response, and somatic signals, the body. Now, the internal language, well, this is what you're saying to yourself. And listen out, and I listen out for words like should, can't, must, always, never. Language that carries stress and negativity and pressure and judgment. So, for example, I should be handling this better. I can't let anyone down. I always mess this up, or somebody else always messes this up. An emotional response would be, what are you feeling? Are you feeling fear, anger, frustration, distress? Is there pressure building up? Your emotions are information, not weakness. I also notice happy and good emotions too. Then there is your somatic signaling. Okay, this is your body talking. Muscular tension in your shoulders, headaches, migraines, that churning stomach, IBS symptoms. They often come up more in my therapeutic practice with executives, but also in my coaching practice. Your body often notices something is wrong before your conscious mind catches up. So in these videos, I want to put into context my approach with a real example of a coaching situation. I will change the names for confidentiality, maybe a couple of details too, but the principle stays the same. So I'm going to introduce you to Emily. Emily is a senior director who came to me for coaching. And one particular Monday morning, Emily is in back-to-back meetings and she notices her jaw is clenched. And there's that familiar tension headache starting. And she catches herself thinking, I can't keep up with this pace. There was a whole lot going on. Emily had primary responsibility for her children. Whole other story. Was finding herself working a lot at weekends out of hours. Was doing predominant amount of home housework and at a very senior position. So when she says to herself on a Monday morning, I can't keep up with this pace, it's informed by many things, and that language, it's awareness. Her body spoke first. The jaw tension, the headache, and then came the internal language. I can't keep up. She became aware that something needed to change. So awareness is the first step. What matters next is how you acknowledge what you're noticing or what you have noticed. And this is where mindset comes in. And this, folks, critical. You've got two paths here. You can have a fixed mindset acknowledgement. This is very Carl Dweck, by the way. And that would sound like, this is just how I am. There's nothing I can do about it. He'll never change. I'm just a victim of circumstances. Okay? Or judgment. I'm weak for feeling this way. Or ignoring it. I'll just push through. Now, a growth mindset acknowledgement will sound like this. This is information. I can do something about this. What does this tell me about what I need? And it's curiosity, not judgment. Ah, interesting. What's really going on here? So when you acknowledge with curiosity rather than judgment, you take back the power. You're no longer at the mercy of the situation. You're engaging with it. So going back to Emily's story, well, Emily could have acknowledged her tension headache and thought, I'm just not cut out for this level of leadership. Okay? And that's a fixed mindset, judgment and victimhood. Instead, with some practice, she learned to acknowledge it differently. My body is telling me something important. This pace isn't sustainable. What do I need to change? So that shift from judgment to curiosity, it changes everything that comes next. Once you've acknowledged that there's a challenge you can work with, the next step, the third A, is appraisal. Now, this is where you create the narrative about what's happening. What story are you telling yourself? Your appraisal determines your options. And here's what's fascinating from a cognitive behavioural perspective. The situation itself is often neutral, okay? It's the story we tell about it that creates our experience. So a fixed and victim appraisal might sound like, this deadline is impossible. My team is letting me down, maybe even again. This always happens to me. Nothing I do will make a difference. Now the growth appraisal. This deadline is tight. What resources do I need? My team is struggling. How can I support them differently? This is a pattern. What can I learn from it? I have influence here, even if I can't control everything. So the narrative you create directly influences what you believe is possible. Now, Emily appraised her situation. She could have told herself, senior leadership is overwhelming. I can't do this and run a home as well. I'm in over my head. This is just what this level demands, and I either cope or fail. So instead, she appraised it as, I've taken on too much without adjusting how I work. I do not have fair and equal balance between work and home, nor in my partnership. I need to delegate more effectively and protect some thinking time in my calendar. This is about systems, not about my capability. Can you hear the difference? Okay, can you see that? Same situation, completely different narrative. So this brings us to the next one, okay, the next action. Final action, in a way, action, okay? What are you going to do about it? Okay. And here's the key insight. Your action follows naturally from your appraisal. If your appraisal is, this is impossible and I'm helpless, your action will be limited. Maybe avoidance, maybe grinding yourself down further. And I'm going to do a whole load of videos around appraisal and the neuroscience of how that works. If your appraisal is, this is challenging and I have options, you open up a whole range of possible actions. So an action might be having a conversation that you've been avoiding, changing how you structure your day, asking for help or resources, or insisting on help and resources, setting boundaries, delegating differently, seeking support, whether it's a mentor or a manager or a colleague or a coach or a therapist. In Sarah's situation, or Emily's situation, sorry, my previous client was a Sarah. In Emily's situation, the action was specific. She blocked out 1 hour every Tuesday morning as a non-negotiable thinking time. She set a boundary of no meetings after 4 p.m. on Fridays, and she delegated one project that didn't require her direct involvement. She had honest conversations with her manager about priorities, and at home she had some pretty strict conversations, non-negotiable conversations. None of that would have happened without working through the first 3 A's. She acknowledged, she appraised, and she decided to take action. Okay, acknowledging, appraising, and action. And awareness. Awareness came first, sorry. Awareness, acknowledging, appraisal, and then action. Okay. So when you do that, you create a process which moves then to the final step, which is very important. And many people stop at action and they don't meet the final step, assessment. Okay. You close the loop with assessment. After you've taken the action, you need to assess how it went. Not just whether it worked or didn't work, okay? But what you can learn from the whole process. Assessment, or the way I do it, asks you to reflect on several things. Did the action achieve what you wanted? Okay, maybe fully, maybe partially, maybe not at all, and that's okay. That's all useful information. Curiosity, not judgment. What did you learn about yourself, about your patterns, your strengths, your blind spots? Now, this is where real growth happens. What would you do differently the next time? And again, not from a place of judgment, I should have done this, but from curiosity. What worked? What didn't? What surprised you? I sometimes say to my clients, think of it as what worked and what do I need to bring to that level? What are you noticing about your thinking and behaviour? That's an assessment. Are there patterns emerging? Are you getting better at catching yourself earlier in the cycle? So this assessment then feeds back into your awareness, the very beginning, because the next time you face a challenge, you're working with more information, more self-knowledge, more skill, and different neural pathways. Other video. And that's how the A game becomes a continuous process of development. So it's not just a one-off exercise. So a month after Emily made her changes, we sat down to assess. The 1 hour of thinking time on Tuesdays, well, that was working brilliantly. It gave her the reflection time that allowed her to make better decisions, and she felt more in control. We also looked at when fires come up on a Tuesday morning or demands bring you elsewhere, that's okay, be flexible. Just get it back in somewhere else in the week or move it to next week. The Friday afternoon boundary, it was a little harder to maintain, okay? She'd let it slip twice when urgent things came up. But she noticed that both times the urgent thing could actually have waited until Monday. So what did Emily learn? That her default pattern was still to say yes to everything, okay? Her assessment, though, wasn't, I failed at boundaries. It was now, I'm getting better at noticing when I'm about to break my own boundary. And I'm learning what urgent really means versus what just feels urgent. That awareness that Emily had, it fed straight back into the cycle. So the next challenge she faced, she was already one step ahead. So let's pull this all together. Let's recap the A game. Aware. Notice the signals, internal language, emotions, and body sensations. Acknowledge. Meet it with curiosity, not judgment, a growth mindset, and not a fixed mindset. Appraisal. What story are you telling? What narrative serves you and the situation? Action. What will you do? What's one step you can take? Assessment. What did you learn? What worked? What would you do differently? How does this feed back into your awareness? Back in the beginning, closing the loop. This also isn't just a one-time process. My A game is a cycle that you can return to again and again and again. Each time you practice it, you're strengthening your capacity for self-awareness, emotional regulation, conscious choice, and continuous learning. And actually, I've also described resilience there. That is what resilience is, folks. Okay, that's mental resilience. That's efficiency. That's compassionate self-leadership. So, that was a lot. If this framework of the A game resonates with you, and if you recognize yourself in these patterns and you'd like to support working through them, well then please connect with me. You can find my details, my contact details on my website, akaizenmind.com. I also have a LinkedIn page, Linda Heffernan, Linda with a Y, A Kaizen Mind. This is the kind of work I do every day with leaders who want to perform at their best without burning out, who want to lead and live with clarity and compassion. Thank you for watching. Okay, thank you for giving yourself the time to grow, for working on your growth mindset. Next video will probably be on what do I mean by a Kaizen mind. Oh no, cognitive behavioral approach. That's the next one I want to do, and then a Kaizen mindset. Talk to you soon. See you soon. Look after yourself.